If you look at it overall, before we go into players in depth, break it down, what are your thoughts on the Canadian Shield as a whole? Did it meet your expectations? Or did you just overall, what were your feelings on the Canadian Shield as a whole?
As a whole, I'm very happy and pleased with how it went. The turnout, of course, was the big damper on what was overall a very good tournament. Unfortunately, there weren't any major goals or anything like that, but it was still a very fun tournament. There was four very good nations. New Zealand pulled up a surprise over Cote d'Ivoire, and Canada showed us so many lessons, so many position battles, and Jesse Morris would have been able to learn so much from both those games. But in general, from the tournament, it was fun to watch. It was something new, something fresh, a different setup that we got to see. Yes, we got to make a trophy for ourselves to win, but we had to go win it, right? Like we beat a
Mhm.
good side in Ukraine. We managed to draw the best team that from Africa right now, the reigning AFCON champions. And it was a good tournament overall from Canada, albeit didn't end on the most exciting of ways, losing in a penalty shootout after a draw, which unfortunately on TSN for some Canadian casuals is a bit confusing that we go out and lift a trophy after quote unquote losing a game in a penalty shootout. And
No.
I can
Mhm.
understand why that's confusing, right, to a casual, but we had to do it. We had to have the penalty shootout. Those were the rules set from the start of the tournament.
Mhm.
And you just got to stay to the status quo. So that's the only really confusing part about the tournament, and something maybe that should be tweaked, should be changed. Because if you're a casual just popping on TSN to watch Canada against Cote d'Ivoire and you see us draw and go into a shootout but lift the trophy, it's a bit unusual, and I can understand that.
Mhm.
But overall, I think it was a success. And the biggest downfall, the biggest negative had to be the turnout, had to be the fans that showed up, because
Mhm.
the price was just a bit wild for two games, especially for such a late time on the East Coast. For you guys out there watching on the East Coast going to the game, that's a crazy night, right? You go watch the New Zealand game, then you go watch the Canada game. You're not getting home till I don't know what time you guys would have been home at, but
Mhm.
it was late even here in central Canada watching the game. And then when you realize how late it would have been for you guys, I think that's the only thing that has to be tinkered is the price, the time scheduling, and what to do next for that tournament and the scheduling really.
No, really, I think one of the things, like, if we're gonna talk on that, I think one of the things I think they missed out on, I understand the logic of it, and I tweeted it. Like, I understand the logic of the two build ticket, right? You get
Yeah.
both games coming in, but I think they really missed the ball on separating it. I think I understand the logic in it. You're guaranteeing both prices. You have to pay for three teams to come in, basically. And so you need to secure as much funds as you can for ticket sales that way. I still do think, based off the teams that they had, they could have sold the games individually. I really do. I think
Yeah.
you could have got a good turnout from with the Cote
Cote
d'Ivoire
d'Ivoire.
fans
Yeah.
coming out.
100%.
Canadian fans would have shown up, and maybe that would have been perfect, because you would have got Canadian fans who show up for the game. Maybe it's still, you still see the exit, but it's not as pronounced as it was before, because it felt very much like, as fair or unfair, and I don't think it was as pronounced as that, but it felt like Nations League, right? Where the US played Panama to what felt like 17 people and your cousin. And then once the Mexico Canada game, it was just like everyone but your 17 friends and your cousins were there, right? And so it kind of created that dynamic. It was like that. And I remember, like, because for me, but going behind the curtain, like I got called to say, like, hey, are you going to this game? We can get you into this game. And my thought was just, look, it's a Tuesday. I got work tomorrow. It went to penalties. So at that point, I would have reached home at like 1, and then I had to go into the office next day. So it was just a tough call to make. But those logistics outside, I think it did show there is that diaspora. And it was interesting on the backs of that, because that came after the women hosted Haiti and Montreal. And I mean,
And Winnipeg.
yes,
Yep,
the
my bad, yeah.
Winnipeg part was important.
Don't
Winnipeg
forget
was
the
important.
Central Canada here.
Listen, listen, Central Canada, we love you out there. But I think the story when they got to Montreal, it was basically a Haiti home match, which to me, I don't mind. If you know what's going on in Haiti or what's been going on in Haiti, that's the closest thing those girls have had to a home game in 10 years. I'm pretty sure Canada is the last team to have played in Haiti, when you think about it, because they
Let me
played
think.
during COVID for World Cup qualifiers. And then after that, all their home games have been everywhere but there. So it's fascinating to just think all the connections there. But then you see such a crowd, then we had conversations about, why can't our national teams get support? Like they do. It just, you happen to pick a location where the draw was always going to be more than the national team, and that's okay. But yeah, it was interesting seeing that on the backs of that, and people being like, and then people were like, okay, well, will Ukraine have more fans in there because what their situation is? I'm like, they'll have a good showing, yes, but that'll probably be a good environment overall. But yeah, overall, I think that's the one thing they dropped the ball on, just trying to do the double bill. But I think overall, again, the football was great. I just rewatched the New Zealand Ukraine game, and I was just like, what? Oh, yeah, great game
It was a great
overall.
game.
Just
Yeah.
and like they picked the right teams. And I think that was a fun thing with it. They got the right teams that offered something different in every matchup, right? And I had this conversation with on another channel with here actually, and we were talking about like the Unity Cup where you had Ghana versus Nigeria, then Trinidad versus Jamaica. Like, well, who would you do if France did their version of that? Would they call Morocco? Would they call Haiti? Who would they do? And so, like, before we go into the player breakdowns, like next year for Canadian Shield, or the next time you try to do Canadian Shield, who would you love to see in it? Like, what teams would you say, hey, let's get these guys in, both from a draw or just from what their teams could be on the pitch?
I think that's a really good. I think you almost have to bring someone from South America this time. You have to bring someone from a different region, a different confederation, and get someone new in there to keep the tournament a bit fresh, right? Because I also think a South American crowd, you're going to get a lot of supporters coming out to that game. And if you get a nation such as Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, you're going to get a really good turnout from those supporters, and they're going to bring a great vibe. It's going to be a very exciting opposition for Canada and a different look to break down. Even though we just faced a Copa America opponent, it'd be interesting to see how we could do a year or two on from that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe an Asian nation as well, get a Japan involved, get a South Korea involved, and see how that goes as well. Because those are great teams, fun to play. And we also remember Canada played Japan 2-3 years ago. I can't remember exactly when that friendly was.
That was right before the World Cup in 22. So
yeah, it seems like
and then the one before, and then they played them 2 years ago before the Nations League versus Jamaica. So
yeah, it feels like another lifetime ago almost. But like, it's a new Japan side, a new Canadian side. Let's see how they play against each other, right? Get Japan, get Uruguay or Chile, and then throw a European nation in. Maybe call France back, call Netherlands back, and see if they want to come down and do something like that. Get 3 really big nations, get Canada involved, and maybe this time I'd like to see them play every single nation at this, which I know logistically is probably very difficult because these players have vacations to go to, they have Club World Cups, whatever's going on. But if you play all 3 nations, they all get more time, and it makes it more worth their while to travel all the way to Canada, because then you get to see the environment, see how you play against each other and against different federations. So I think it'd be very exciting to see if they could do all 3 games.
No, agreed. I think what could be fun if they do it next year, for example. I mean, it'd be the perfect send-off tournaments to do it there. At that case, then you're looking at who's at the World Cup, who could you get, and at that point, I'm like, because we know the send-off game is in Montreal. We know that right now. And so if you're going to do that, like, could you get a Brazil in Montreal, the good Brazilian population in Quebec? Could you get any French nation, any of the North African nations? Right now, Morocco looks good. Could you get Morocco versus Canada as like a nice going back to that? That could be fun as well. Any nation from from French colonies, put them in Quebec. You got options. So I think they can definitely do it. If I had to go a 14 thing, I would probably